Welcome to Sound Meets Sound.
We give ourselves to each other, and then we hurt each other to
My guest this episode is flutist Meerenai Shim.
Welcome to Sound Meets Sound, Meerenai Shim. I love your name, and I didn't even know what it meant before, and I loved it already because it's just really pretty sounding. But then I read on your site that it means like galaxy or something, so
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Thanks.
And so why don't you just give us your elevator pitch about who you are?
I am a flutist mainly, and I've been playing a lot of contemporary classical flute music. I play in a few groups: AB Duo, which is a flute and percussion duo; Arion Flutes, which is a contemporary flute trio; and then Keyed Contraptions, which is a contrabass flute and contraforte duo. And contraforte is a modern version of the contrabassoon.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering what that was.
And I also have a record label, a very small record label with one employee, myself. It's called Arcade Music, and it also specializes in like contemporary classical, electronic, experimental stuff.
Cool. I always like hearing people's, especially musicians, like origin stories. Like, how did you start playing the flute? Was flute like your first passion, or did you want to do something else before that?
Well, I picked up the flute because all my friends in 5th grade picked the flute, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm playing the flute. I really didn't have any special desire to play the flute. My parents started me on cello the year before in 4th grade, but our school district didn't have a string program, so it was just sort of private lessons, and then whenever my cello teacher wanted to get a small string orchestra together, we would do something. But the flute sort of started out as a social kind of thing, and because of that, I ended up practicing it a lot more. And as you get to middle and high school, it gets more competitive with a bunch of mostly girls playing the flute. So it made me practice more, and so that's what I ended up pursuing as if for degrees. When I was in high school, I thought that I was going to become an orchestral conductor, so I did train to do that throughout college, even though back then there was no conducting major, and rightly so, I think. So I was a flute major, and I thought that I was going to continue as a conductor.
Oh,
but
interesting.
I abandoned those lofty goals after undergrad.
Any particular reason you abandoned that?
Well, I just didn't have as much. Either I didn't want it. I guess the real reason is I didn't want it badly as I thought I did. And the other was I really was sort of lost on my own, and I felt like I was sort of flailing, and I sort of got discouraged. And then after I finished my undergrad, it was sort of a shock to the system. Okay, I have a music degree, a music performance degree. What do I do with it? As a flutist, it's not I practiced well enough so that my studio teachers wouldn't, kick me out, or I was a satisfactory flute student, but I wasn't the star because I thought I was going to be a conductor.
Right.
So, after undergrad, I was sort of worried about what I was going to do as a musician. So I enrolled at DePaul University, where I just got my undergrad, and in the information systems master's degree program. And I got an internship with the Chicago Symphony, doing IT stuff.
Oh.
And so, after a year, it's well, I can just get a job in IT back in California, and then I don't have to deal with any more Chicago winters. So I moved back, and I took a break from music for a few years.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is starting to become a really long story. So,
it's fascinating to
Okay.
me. So, yeah. And I think most people listening are going to be fascinated because everyone takes a different path, and we all think, this is the path you're supposed to take, and we all think we all took that path, but especially in contemporary music, lots of us did not take that path,
That's true.
Lots of breaks along the way, the idea of starting late, not being the star necessarily, all those things are recurring themes I hear from people, especially that are performing contemporary music. So I find that really interesting, especially that you got training to do something else and then came back to music, basically.
Yeah, I was working a day job that paid very well at a very prestigious accounting firm, doing management consulting and IT security consulting and stuff like that. I was just making rich people richer.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the point of my day job, was to make rich people even more rich. So I was like, this is not what I want to do with my life. So I quit, and then I started practicing again, and then started teaching private flute lessons for the first time, which is sort of scary and exciting. And I learned so much from teaching, which is it really helped me get my flute playing game back into shape. And then I went back to school and enrolled at San Francisco State University.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a master's in flute there.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a really cool origin story. So your roots are here in California. And then,
yeah, I grew up in Novato.
So you're with all these duos and you're a flute player, but I have noticed throughout my knowing of you that you use a lot of electronics, and you seem to devise a lot of things yourself, like setups for concerts and stuff. And you knew about what microphone this was. So I'm just curious, what's your background with electronics and music, and how did you get into that?
Well, I mean, I had no background in electronics for audio electronics at all, except, because I wasn't afraid of computers in general because I have that IT background.
Mm-hmm.
I was willing to try it out. I sort of had a basic idea, and it didn't scare me. And my husband is an electrical engineer, so he designs computer chips, so he knows a lot more about everything.
It has a soldering gun.
Yeah, he has several soldering guns, and so he helped me pick up my first DAT recorder back in the day, and then since then, he was one of the first people to help me research microphones and stuff. But now, I do most of it on my own, and occasionally, if I have some kind of really challenging issue, I will probably mostly complain to him about it.
That it kind of gets me into asking about this piece that you posted. There's a recording on YouTube, and it's called Seriously, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's this graphic score, and I'm telling the readers, not you. The readers, the listeners, oh my gosh. Which it just intrigued me because I worked with a composer once on live painting and trying to map that to Max and all that. Max I must be. So I'm just really curious about that, because that you created the painting essentially that is rigged up with these things that I don't really understand. So I was wondering if you could walk us through that piece.
Sure. This is my second graphic notation piece. The first one was just regular paper. Okay. For a quartet. Ideally, I think graphic notation pieces work. I think as an audience member, I would love to see the graphic notation. Right. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just it's just impractical to do. Sometimes it's just, I don't know. The piece wasn't conceived that way, or I don't know. Right. But so this next piece, I decided that I wanted something that the audience could see that would do more than function more than just as something for eye candy or just. Uh-huh. It was written for my duo, AB duo. It's I don't know, it's 5 feet by 2.5 feet. It's made out of fabric mostly. Mm-hmm. Most of it is fabric, and then there's some painting, some fabric paint. There's some metal studs that I put in, and then there's some conductive fabric and conductive thread. I hand embroidered some patterns here and there with regular ornamental thread and also the conductive thread. And then in the back, it's attached to a Arduino board that has MP3s of different sounds that I sampled all ready to go. So depending on what you touch on the tapestry, I guess, you get different sounds.
Okay. Yeah. And so I'm pretty sure you weren't reading you didn't have like other scores in front of
No.
you, right? So how did you communicate to Chris like what to do, and how did you guys had to memorize it, or was it partly improvisatory?
Oh yeah, it's mostly improvisatory. Like we like worked out a few things and like, okay, we're gonna do this, and then we might try a section that's sort of like this, but every time it's a little bit different. I named it Seriously because I just wanted something that sounded serious. So it's sort of a cheeky kind of a thing.
It does sound serious. It sounds like a, post-tonal, completely notated piece when you listen to it. It sounds structured and everything. So it is, I just thought that was really cool. It was like they're doing this off of this tapestry that they also, that you were interacting with and making sounds with. So I just thought it was a really cool piece. So. Yeah, and you were talking about how you pre-recorded MP3s for that. And I noticed some of the other pieces with AB Duo, I can't remember the name now, but I'm terrible with names, but you're playing and the video is like a teen carnival.
Oh yeah.
So you in the video you see the two of you, but then there's also a lot of, I think you called it postal service, like postal service-y, like, synths and drums, and especially, I mean, really it's Postal Service because he sounds so much like the lead singer. But yeah, so did you pre-record all that, or did you guys do that together?
Oh no, actually that's a piece we commissioned from Andrew Rodriguez.
Okay, all right.
And he's like really great at, I mean, he's very versatile. He can write like regular, serious concert music, but also he's in several bands, and he's a really great producer. And so he put this piece together more like a pop track, like producer. Okay. So he did notate our parts, and then like we tracked all the parts that we could, including Chris's little vocal part. And then I sent the stems back to him, and then he like produced the bleep out of it, and it sounds like a totally like awesome pop track.
Yeah.
We were super excited about it.
Yeah, that was cool. And the video was cool too, how you two wore two different outfits. It wasn't it like there's like one where you guys are like white and black and then all in black in the video that you.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like it's all DIY. So
right.
I had to just use whatever footage we had. So I mean, we have like lots of videos on YouTube where it's just us performing, and that's fine. Yeah. But also, for this track, I wanted something that sort of looked like a real music video. So I went to the Internet Archive and got one of those old videos that are that you can use without
public domain.
Public domain videos. And so I just sort of like found one that sort of could have been a story that like plausible. Yeah. So I just sort of edited that together.
Oh, okay, so you edited that video together. Oh, that's cool. What software did you use for that?
Final Cut Pro.
Okay, all right, cool. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that you had actually done that. I thought it was really clever. I mean, those public domain like 1950s, like they're so cheesy, but it was like actually kind of sweet, with the track, the way you cut it in together. I like to talk about the scene and that that people are in that are my interlocutors, and also like community. So you've been in the scene, the Bay Area scene, or whatever you would call it, or I don't know what it would be called because I'm so new and I know nothing about California, but I could talk about the New York scene like for days. So like what is the Bay, or would you call it the Bay Area scene? Like what is it like for you being in a community here and organizing stuff?
Well, honestly, I feel like I'm a newcomer to the scene as well.
Really?
Sort of.
Okay.
Well, first because I'm all the way down in Campbell near San Jose.
Yeah.
Which is on a good day, 1 hour drive to San Francisco. So I can't make it up to where all the action is in like Oakland and San Francisco that often, although I would love to. And then also I haven't really been playing like contemporary classical music until like maybe 2011 is when I started.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
before that, I was pretty much like a straight up classical only kind of musician.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which is sort of cool, but like I'm sort of sad about that. Like I didn't, like I wish I had. Back in my day, if you weren't a composition student, you didn't get, there was no electronic music class.
Right.
It was like,
right, yeah.
I think in my undergrad days, performance majors didn't even have to take like counterpoint class, which is like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, so yeah, I felt like an outsider for a long time. I think it was after the Center for New Music got started.
Right, yeah.
5 years ago that I felt like, so I mean I became a member of that as soon as they opened, and going to shows there and hanging out with people, and then like meeting different people there, and then learning stuff from Adam and Brent who run the place. That's when I started to feel like, oh yeah, this is a community that I can belong to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and because when I did my master's, San Francisco State back in my day, there was really not much going on as far as alumni from the school. Yeah, so I didn't have like a cohort of grads that I could like do stuff with, really.
Right.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I've only really known people for like the last, I don't know, 5 years.
That's funny because when I was stalking you online for this, which I called research, I was like, it seems to go back to like 2013, 2012. And I was like, but she was definitely doing stuff before then. So that's okay. So that explains that. And you, I also didn't realize the Center for New Music was so new. And you were, what do they call them, a curator there?
Yeah, I was a curator.
How did you go about organizing the concerts? Like what, again on this topic of like community and making connections and stuff, like what was it that you did with that, and was it really challenging to get these concerts together, or was it like just like natural, organic for you? Like
well, every curator has their own like vision, or
Right.
Some people have like they actually curate, whereas I was like, oh, that sounds cool, let's do it.
okay.
So there were a few concerts where like if I wanted to put on a concert, that's my curated concert, or if a good friend wanted to do a concert, that's I would put it on. But then occasionally we'll have out of town musicians who would send an email to Brent saying, hey, here's my proposal, and then Brent will send it out to all the curators, and then if any of us are interested, we'll pick it up and like host it and stuff. But the other thing I wanted to sort of do was open up the community even more, and so I started this new music open mic.
Oh,
So it wasn't really an open mic, like you don't just show up and then sign up,
Right.
Because of the new music part, where people
Yeah.
needed some time to like prepare and like
Right.
so they had to really know that they're going on, before they like cart in like
Yeah.
3 suitcases worth of electronics.
Right.
So yeah, it was pretty loose though, like first come first serve, like as far as like if you sign up early, then you get the date you want.
Right.
Yeah, and so I was really proud of that series because we got a lot of performers in there who normally wouldn't think of the Center for New Music as a venue for them, because they were either on the fringes, or they were new to the area, or they just never even heard about the center.
Right.
And so I got to meet a lot of different people, and a lot of people who were like members of the Center for New Music now, and that was their first time visiting.
Right.
Their show was the first time that they came to visit. So
Yeah.
I think that was pretty cool. That's how I try to like enlarge the community.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. I had forgotten about. When I was going through the Center for Music page, I saw your thing for the open mic and how it was running until 2016, I think, and then.
Yeah, I think it might. I mean, if the center can get more funding, I think the desire is there to keep that going. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I think especially as someone new here, it is hard to figure out where to put yourself, So I was like, oh, cool, like new music open night, and that's so my jam, So just one quick sidetrack, because I'm just really curious. So prior to like 2011, 2012, were you just teaching flute lessons and like playing in orchestras, or is that?
Yeah, I was basically playing or just teaching most of the time. And if I ever got called for a gig, I wasn't getting called for like really big gigs because, well, I haven't been, it had only been a few years since I've like reclaimed the flute as my thing.
Right.
And then when I did get calls, a lot of times it didn't make any economic sense to reschedule all my students and take a gig that I have to drive like, 2 hours each way and make, $100 a service or whatever.
Right.
Like I could make a lot more staying at home and teaching. So I didn't play a lot. I mean, I did play some like local pickup orchestra things here and there. I tried to do some chamber music then too. I mean, I have a whole string of chamber groups, more like straight up, like, classical chamber music groups that didn't really take off.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, there often is this like divide between the classical, and I'm using scare quotes, life, and the new music life, and they often don't like coexist. Yeah, let's talk about Aerocade music. So you created that label to release was it Pheromone? Yeah. Do you have like plans for that label? Is that something that you want to that's where you release your music, or are you thinking about releasing other people's music on that? Or
well, initially it was just for my own music. Basically, one can call it a vanity label. And I was like, you know what, that's fine with me.
Yeah,
I had previously released 2 other solo albums on my own, and for this third one for Pheromone, I was like, you know what, I might as well like do the best I can with it. So I started this label, but then like as soon after as I was starting it, a friend of mine who's produced the Post Haste Reed Duo's album, he emailed and he's like, hey, I heard you're starting a label. Post Haste Reed Duo is looking for a label to release their debut album on. So I was like, awesome. So and then I was like, all right, I guess I'm releasing other people's projects too. So Post Haste, they had a lot of faith in me. Like, I can't believe that they let me release their first album, their baby. And then since then there have been 7 releases total. I mean, it's just me. So I can't really I don't really have a full like release schedule. Like most of last year actually there was not a lot of action on Aerocade, but this year there's going to be a lot more coming out.
I am curious about, I was reading the part of your website about body mapping and the journey you've taken. It sounds like you were doing one technique and now you're learning a different technique.
Yeah.
And you're sort of put that other technique aside. So I don't know, I think you said it stemmed from an injury, so can you tell us the story of that?
Yeah, when I went back to do my master's degree, suddenly I was like, I'm gonna practice until my my face falls off, basically, because I really had a lot to catch up on. So a lot of practicing like that, really, without any training. Like prior to that, I had never taken an Alexander technique lesson. I had no idea about any of this stuff. Like you just play through the pain. Like if you're in pain, that means you had a good practice. That's how it was. But it got so bad that like I had extreme dry mouth. Like I had blurry vision, and like I remember doing my final graduate recital. Like there were parts of it like I don't even know how I got through it because like I just literally could not see the music.
Wow.
Yeah. So like after I graduated, I seriously contemplating just quitting. I was like, I don't know, because it wasn't just like my physical discomfort. I just felt like I couldn't express myself through the instrument. I was like, what's the point of doing this if like I feel like I can't make any music from the flute? And of course I blamed the flute itself, like not the actual flute, but like flute in general.
Yeah.
Like
as an instrument.
Like we can only be birds and that's stupid. I seriously contemplated selling my flute and just quitting it all again. And then a friend of mine introduced me to this week-long flute camp for adults, which was a flute like a week-long residential masterclass, but it was also had Alexander technique, like daily Alexander technique, Feldenkrais, and body mapping classes built in. So I was like, all right, I'll try it. And it totally changed my life.
Wow.
So with body mapping is a term, I don't know, that's what the end-of educators use to describe like the size, structure, and function of different body parts and the whole of your body as you're doing tasks like playing the flute, so that you have a whole like vision of your entire self, not just lips and fingers like I used to think. And so it really helps increase your awareness so that if you're feeling fatigued, you'll know it a lot earlier, and you have a choice, like you can change something so that you're not in discomfort. My first lessons in Feldenkrais was there too, and the Feldenkrais philosophy of like, don't do as much as you can, do only as much as you're able to do while you're enjoying what you're doing. And then maybe even try less, which is like so weird. Like as a traditionally trained musician, it's like, no, you try harder, and then that's not hard enough, And then, but in Feldenkrais, it's like, well, do it, and then try doing less. It's like it's like a I was like, what? It was sort of like a Yoda, teaching like the young grasshopper some things, and it totally was very attractive to me. I would have started studying Feldenkrais like more seriously right then and tried to become a practitioner, but it seemed like a daunting task because it was a 4-year program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, but body mapping, which is also great, based on the Alexander technique, but it's more practical anatomy for musicians. It was packaged that way, and it was seemed a lot more doable. So I did study that, and I got licensed to become an Andover educator teaching body mapping. And then like about 3 years ago, I guess, two years ago, I decided that it's time. I'm ready. I need more Feldenkrais in my life because that's really my first somatic education love. So right now I'm actually today. I came here after a Feldenkrais teacher training session.
Oh, okay.
In Center Fall. So this is the beginning of my third of 4 years of Feldenkrais practitioner training. Yeah.
Wow. And you have like people over and like you do this, I don't know what you would call it, therapy technique training with them.
Yeah, I mean, I am no longer officially licensed to teach body mapping as prescribed by the Andover educators because I resigned from that organization. But yes, I have had people come to my house and seek out lessons on how to play with less pain or play better, using their whole body. And then right now for Feldenkrais, after 2 years, I can teach group awareness through movement lessons for Feldenkrais. I haven't started doing that yet, not officially, but I hope to soon. And then after 4 years, I could do one-on-one private lessons where I actually do hands-on movement teaching with the students. The body mapping is that course. It was the official name of the entire course was what every musician needs to know about the body.
Okay.
But the Feldenkrais method is for anybody. Anyone who is alive and breathing. Feldenkrais is for you.
That's still me.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask if you have any upcoming performances or releases that you want to talk about here.
I think the next thing that's happening is I think Heat Contraptions is playing the Hot Air Music Festival at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music in February. January is sort of a slow month because most of the month I'm in Feldenkrais teacher training, so I try to keep it a lighter month for that.
With the Heat Contraptions, I was watching some of the videos, and it's really interesting because I don't think I've ever seen a contraforte, in action before. Like I've seen a what is it? Is it called a contrabass flute?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen like the occasional one of those, but I've never seen the contraforte. So it's a really interesting blend of sounds, and you guys use electronics with that too. Like you play electronic.
Well, I have to be amplified because the flute is like so quiet. And the contraforte, it's a modern instrument designed to be the ultimate, contrabassoon.
Okay.
So it's got amazing sound, like all registers sound clean and beautiful. Nothing sounds woody or reedy, and like it can be as loud as like louder than loud if and so
yeah.
So the contrabass flute, however, was not designed with that in mind. It's just a flute blown up. So it's the low registers, really difficult to make loud and stuff like that. So so I have to be amplified.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we have options. I can just put some, guitar pedals on my mic if I wanted to.
Is that hard to, as far as breath goes, is that a really different animal, like playing such a big instrument?
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 octaves lower than the concert flute. And the concert flute already requires a lot of air.
Yeah.
So the contrabass flute is pretty crazy.
Yeah, one of my best friends growing up switched from piano to flute. We were both learning piano, and then she went to flute. And I was just like, whoa, like I don't have the energy for this instrument. Like it's so challenging, like the position and the breath and everything, and just getting a nice sound out of it. I was just like, whoa, that's too hard.
Oh, it is. It can be hard in the beginning. I think the first 3 months, like if you're having an okay first 3 months, or you get over that hump, flute's like pretty darn easy. That's why there's so many of us.
Well, it's also nice to have an instrument that doesn't take up a lot of space, and you can kind of play. It's not like a trumpet that's going to be really loud in your apartment.
True.
You can play it, and you're not going to disturb people.
That is the truth. Although, playing, like dealing with my own electronics rigs and stuff, it is not funny to me when people are like, "Oh, aren't you glad you played the flute?" No, because I tour with 5 flutes, a contrabass flute, and like a 50-pound pedal board. So
right.
I don't want to talk about it.
So at this point, Meerenai made the fatal mistake of asking me about myself, talk about myself, and I basically talked her ear off for like another half hour. So I'm not going to include that here, but I never recorded a thank you for being here section. So thank you, Meerenai, for appearing on the podcast. I encourage everyone to go out and check out her Bandcamp, meerenai.bandcamp.com, and her label, aerocade.bandcamp.com. There's some really great recordings there. I'm going to include here at the end, it's a longer piece, but I really like it, and it really shows off Meerenai's playing. It's called Fractus 3, Aerophoneme for Flute and Live Electronic Sound. It's by Eli Fieldsteel, and it's from Meerenai's 2015 release, Pheromone. So I highly recommend going to Bandcamp and checking that out. Thank you again, Meerenai, and here is Fractus 3.